Hi guys, David O'Sullivan here. Welcome back to a new instalment of the Friday Film Show, and in this episode I'm going to be talking exclusively about 5 big pieces of movie news in particular that dropped this past week. And I thought I'd bring this show back because at the beginning of the week I was thinking of bringing back a weekly movie news kind of segment, and then as the week progressed we got some really big pieces of movie news that dropped, and I thought I just have to talk about these. So we're at Friday now, and I thought I'd bring back the Friday Film Show, but just talking more about the movie news and these 5 big stories in particular. So with all that being said, let's get into our first story here, and it is It, of course, breaking box office records, becoming the highest grossing R-rated horror movie of all time. And this was a really big piece of news because a lot of people were really looking forward to this movie, but I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams could have imagined the movie making this much money. It raked in more than $123 million at the US box office on its opening weekend, which is absolutely massive. I mean, it's not just a big opening weekend, but it got so much that it became the highest grossing R-rated horror movie of all time, and it also became the highest grossing opening weekend of any September release also. So 2 really big records there, and I had to talk about this because I haven't actually seen it myself. I'm not a big horror guy, although I probably am going to check this movie out at some point, but it's really big, the fact that this movie made this much. And there's also a lot of factors going into it. The previous 2 weeks not much really came out, and everyone was really looking forward to this. A lot of people were really excited to see it. The trailers were great, and so lots of factors came together, resulting in loads of people going to see it, and it absolutely crushing it at the box office in its opening weekend. It's also been doing really well over here in the UK as well, but in terms of it getting 123 million in its opening weekend at the box office, it's absolutely huge. The highest grossing R-rated horror movie of all time. That's a massive record. And also another record the movie got was that it got the biggest opening weekend of any movie this year so far, behind only Guardians and Beauty and the Beast, I believe. So again, another huge record. And although I'm not a big horror guy myself, I'm actually considering going to see it, not because of how well it's been doing at the box office, but even before it came out, I was actually considering checking it out, and I probably still will see it at some point. I think that just shows you how much of a wide appeal this movie is getting, that so many people want to go and see this movie. Even someone like me, who's not a big horror guy, I'm actually really intrigued and actually really interested in checking this movie out. And I'm not a fan of horror. Horror movies aren't really my thing, but I'm just finding so much about this film so intriguing, and so many things that I've heard, even as far as the praising of the non-horror elements are concerned. It's kind of making me want to see the movie. So that just goes to show how much of a wide appeal this movie is getting, that even someone like me, who's not a big fan of horror, even I really actually want to check this movie out now. So there we go. I had to talk about the massive success it was having at the box office because it was absolutely huge. But going into my second story here, and there's also another big one for the history books, is that Patty Jenkins has been confirmed as finally being the director of Wonder Woman 2, thus becoming the highest paid female director in Hollywood history. She's signing on to direct Wonder Woman 2 for $8 million, I believe, and she's going to get more creative control. She's going to get writing credit, producing credit, I believe, and I am so happy about this. Obviously it's taken a lot longer than most of us expected, but I think that's because they were trying to work out a deal, her and Warner Brothers, and really the only reason it's taken this long is because Warner Brothers didn't hold her down with a kind of multi-picture contract to begin with. A lot of the time when these directors sign on to these big movies, they sign up for a multiple picture contract where they sign on to do the sequel and the third one or whatever, but they only signed Patty Jenkins for the first one, which in hindsight was a big mistake because they didn't realise how much of a success the movie was going to be and how much of that was attributed to the directing by Patty Jenkins. And because it was such a massive success at the box office and everyone loved it, they were like, oh, we kind of have to bring Patty Jenkins back. The only thing is now she's going to have more control over how much she gets in this deal now to bring her back for the sequel, because she could easily just walk away. So she obviously waited and wanted to get the best deal possible, and I'm really happy for her. She deserves all the money in the world because she did a fantastic job with Wonder Woman. I'm so glad they made this deal now to bring her back. She's going to get more money, becoming the highest paid female director in the history of Hollywood, I think. That's how big this deal is, and I'm so glad they're bringing her back for the sequel. She's going to get more control, more writing credit, producing credit, which I think is great because obviously a big part of the success of the first one, as I said, was Patty Jenkins, and the fact that they're giving her more creative control in the second one I think is absolutely great because she is a big part of what made that movie work so well. So it only makes sense that she would get even more control and more freedom with the sequel, and that she would get paid a whole lot more money as well, because they were stupid enough to not sign her down for a multi-picture deal, so now she's getting this deal now to get more money, more control, and I cannot wait to see what she does with the sequel, Wonder Woman 2, whatever it's going to be called. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really glad she's going to come back to direct the movie. And next up, this is quite possibly the biggest story that dropped this past week, and as soon as this came out, I was like, I've got to talk about this, and it is that J.J. Abrams has been brought back to direct Star Wars Episode 9 for Lucasfilm in the wake of Colin Trevorrow's departure. And if you've been following me on Twitter, you probably already know how I feel about this, because I went on a little bit of a mini rant on Twitter about this. But what I have to say first off is that I don't hate this choice. I think it's a smart choice. I think it's a sensible choice. And I'm a big fan of J.J. Abrams. He's one of my favourite directors. I really like J.J. Abrams. I love what he did with The Force Awakens, but I'm not a big fan of this piece of news. Why? Everyone's been saying it, but it's just a bit of a safe choice for me. And safe's not necessarily bad. It's a very smart and sensible choice because they know what J.J. Abrams is going to be doing with this movie. They've seen what he did with Force Awakens, and that proved to be a massive success. So it only makes sense to bring him back if Rian Johnson turned down the offer, which was reported. So it makes sense that they would go back to J.J. They know that he can do a Star Wars movie. They worked with him before. They know he'll be able to deliver on what the fans want. And obviously, Force Awakens was a massive success. So, you know, logistically speaking, it's a smart, sensible choice, but I don't like the idea of bringing JJ back, because for me, all this tells me as a fan is that Lucasfilm are now too scared of taking any risks on any new directors or new talent, because we've seen what happened with Gareth Edwards and kind of got screwed over a bit with Rogue One, with Lord and Miller getting kicked off Han Solo, and obviously with Colin Trevorrow now leaving. It just seems like now they've gotten so scared of taking any risks at any chances and any new directors that they're playing it safe now from the get-go. Let's just go straight to someone who we know is going to do a good job, who we've worked with before, who, you know, we don't have to worry about. And it is a smart, sensible choice, but it's a bit of a boring choice for me. It's so just uninspired. It just doesn't get me excited, because I'm a big J.J. Abrams fan, and I'm a big fan of what he did with The Force Awakens, but it just seems like a bit of a backwards move for me, you know. And what annoys me is that they started off with this trilogy with the intent of getting 3 different directors for the 3 different films, similar to what the original trilogy did. You know, we're going to get JJ for The Force Awakens, Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi, and then Colin Trevorrow for Episode 9. And although I'm not upset that they're going with JJ over Colin Trevorrow, because I'm not necessarily a big fan of Colin Trevorrow, and I'm glad that didn't happen, because I didn't really want him to direct Episode 9, because I didn't necessarily think that was the best choice. But at the same time, I don't like the idea of going back to JJ, because it seems like they're just going backwards by doing that and not going forwards. And if I'm going to continue to be interested and excited about new Star Wars movies coming in the future, I want to know that Lucasfilm are going to be brave enough and bold enough to take new chances on new, different, interesting and exciting filmmakers who have got, you know, new, exciting, different voices and, you know, ideas and visions that they can bring to these films, by just going back to someone who's already done it, who we've already seen do a Star Wars movie, and we kind of know what we're going to get. That's just a little underwhelming and a little disappointing for me. Now, I'm a big fan of JJ, and I'm sure the movie will be great. I love The Force Awakens, but I would have been so much more interested and so much more excited if they went with a new director who's never done a Star Wars movie before. I just didn't think they would do that. I didn't think they would go back to JJ. I mean, looking at it now, in hindsight, maybe I should have seen it coming. But it just really disappoints me, because all it tells me is that Lucasfilm have gotten so scared with taking any new risks or any new chances on new directors, and they're just playing it safe from the get-go. Just going back to JJ, he'll do a good job. He did a good job with Force Awakens, let's just bring him back. That doesn't excite me. I want to see new directors with just new styles and visions and ideas come into the Star Wars universe. Like Alfonso Cuarón would have been a really cool pick. I don't know if that would have happened, but, you know, with someone like, you know, Tarantino or David Fincher, for example, that would never happen. They would never do a Star Wars movie, because they're like, you know, auteur filmmakers, or they're always doing their own original films. They would never like do a big corporate movie for Disney. But with someone like Alfonso Cuarón, he's a great auteur director as well, but he's worked on these bigger movies. He did Gravity, that was a big budget kind of CGI, green screen movie, almost entirely CGI, and that was a fantastic film. And he also worked on a big franchise studio movie with Harry Potter, and I still contend to this day that Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is still by far the best Harry Potter movie. I love what he did with that film. So I'd have loved to see what someone like Alfonso Cuarón could have done with a Star Wars movie, what he could have brought to that, what he could do in that world. That would have really excited me, a pick like that. But with JJ, even though I'm a big fan of JJ, and I'm sure the movie will be great, it's just a bit of a boring, uninspired pick. And like I said, it's a sensible pick. It makes sense that they would go back to him. They know what they're going to get. They worked with him before. They know it'll be a success. But it's just a little bit boring. It doesn't excite me. And if I'm going to continue to be excited about Star Wars movies going forward, I want to see them start to change things up and go after new, cool, different, exciting filmmakers who can bring new and different, exciting things to these films. And it just seems like they're going backwards, not forwards. It seems like they're getting so scared of taking any new chances or any risk whatsoever. They're just playing it safe with filmmakers like Ron Howard, like J.J. Abrams. And they're both great directors, but the prospect of a Ron Howard Star Wars movie or a J.J. Abrams Star Wars movie, him doing another Star Wars movie, that doesn't excite me. Like, I'm sure they'll do a good job and we'll get some great movies out from them, but that just doesn't excite me. I want to see them start to take chances. You know, it seems like more and more they're going backwards and they're getting more scared and they're playing it more safe. And I don't want to see that with Star Wars. I want to see Lucasfilm go forwards and move it forwards in new, interesting, exciting ways. So I really hope they start to change things up soon. I'm not against JJ doing another Star Wars movie. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure he'll do a really good job. But I hope that after this, I'll look back and start to make some different choices. We're getting some different directors here and start to take the universe forward in new, different, interesting and exciting ways, as opposed to just going back to these tried and tested formulas and directors who we've seen. And we've seen these things time and time again. I don't want to just see the same thing over and over again. I want to see new, different, interesting, exciting things. So I really hope they start to change things going forward. I like JJ, I'm sure he'll do a good job, but I want to see something new. I want to see something different, something that will excite me. So those are my thoughts on the announcement of JJ doing episode 9. What are your thoughts on this? Would you have preferred someone else, or do you actually really like the pick of JJ doing episode 9? Let me know in the comments down below. And next up is that the first official image has been released of David Harbour as Hellboy. And it's not often I talk about something like a picture, you just see a picture, I'm like, yeah, whatever, but oh my god, they released the first official image of David Harbour in full get-up as Hellboy for this new Hellboy reboot. And if you don't know anything about my opinions on this, before this picture was released, I wasn't against the Hellboy reboot, but I love Del Toro's original 2 Hellboy films, and I was really rooting for Del Toro coming back and doing a Hellboy 3. And when that was decided against, and they decided to go for a reboot instead, that really disappointed me. I understand why they decided to do it. Del Toro wanted too big of a budget, and they decided just to do a clean slate and reboot it. It makes sense in a way, but I really want to see Del Toro come back, Ron Perlman come back. I really want to see a closer to that trilogy, but I've accepted it now, and I wasn't really that excited about a Hellboy reboot, really, even though I'm a big fan of Del Toro's original 2 films. I wasn't that excited about the prospect of a Hellboy reboot. I'm like, Del Toro and Ron Perlman already did a really great job. I just don't want to see them reboot it and, try and do a similar kind of thing or try and improve it or anything. But I have to say, this first picture that's been released, it looks awesome. I mean, it looks similar to Ron Perlman's Hellboy in a way, but at the same time it looks grittier, it looks darker, it looks meaner, it looks more animalistic in a way. And I kind of like that. It looks kind of similar to the Ron Perlman Hellboy, but like I said, it looks more muted in the colour palette, it looks more steampunk, it looks more robust, it looks meaner, it looks tougher, it looks more aggressive, and I kind of like that because the whole prospect of this reboot is that they're going to be going darker, more horror, more closer to the source material. And although I really love Del Toro's original 2 Hellboy films, the fact that they are going to go more darker and more of a horror vibe, R-rated, that kind of excites me. And this picture just looks absolutely fantastic. And granted, it's just a still image, but David Harbour looks absolutely fantastic in the new role. It looks almost like just a younger, meaner version of Ron Perlman in that role. And I think this picture looks really great. And who knows, maybe the film won't be that great, but if I'm judging it based on just this still image alone, it looks absolutely fantastic. And I'm actually gone from not being very interested or excited about Hellboy reboot to now being actually really excited, and I cannot wait to see this progress now and see how this turns out, because I'm actually really looking forward to seeing this movie now, because this picture looks really great. And lastly here, I debated whether to discuss this or not, because I don't think anything's actually been confirmed. I don't know if there's anything concrete here, if this is like a legitimate piece of news or not, but it has been circling the past couple of days that Tim Miller has signed on to direct Terminator 6. And again, I don't know if this has been confirmed or not, if this is official, if it was just rumours that are floating around out there, but I think I'd talk about it anyway. I'm a big fan of Terminator. I love the first two films. For me, the franchise is the first two films. I like to consider Terminator 2 the end of the series. Well, that being said, I would love to see a new, really great Terminator movie, but I have just not been excited about the prospect of a new Terminator film, really, at all. Until now, I mean, I'm still unsure of how to feel about it, because I still like the idea of Terminator just being the Terminator and T2 and that being it. But at the same time, you announce Tim Miller. That does get me excited, because he directed Deadpool, obviously, and that was a massive success, a really big hit at the box office. And he would have gotten loads of projects and loads of offers thrown at him. And the fact that he picked Terminator, surely that must tell me that they've got a really great idea for a Terminator 6. Because he wouldn't sign on, if it is true, he wouldn't sign on to direct a Terminator 6 if it was a really bad idea, if it was a really bad script. For me, this tells me that they must have a really great idea for Terminator 6, whether it's at the studio or James Cameron. I think James Cameron's supposedly going to be coming back to produce it. And although I would have got a lot more excited if it was James Cameron, obviously he's tied down with doing all these Avatar sequels, the fact that they've got Tim Miller, that does actually really interest me and really excite me. It piques my interest anyway, even though I still feel I've got mixed feelings about this. I don't know whether we need another Terminator movie. I don't know whether they should move ahead with another Terminator movie. But if they are going to, and if we're going to get another Terminator movie, I'm glad that it could potentially be from Tim Miller, because he did an awesome job with Deadpool, and the fact that he's chosen to do Terminator, supposedly, if the rumours are true, then I've got to say I am a lot more excited about the prospect of another Terminator movie if Tim Miller's going to be doing it, and if they have got a really great idea for another Terminator movie and it's persuaded Tim Miller to get on board to direct it. That does excite me a whole lot more, because they did Terminator Genesis. I didn't hate that movie, but what was it? Alan Taylor, was it? He directed For the Dark World, you know. So I didn't really have any high hopes for that. But if Tim Miller's going to be doing a Terminator movie, especially after what he did with Deadpool, then I feel a lot more optimistic about this. I don't know whether we need another Terminator movie, whether they should move ahead with another Terminator movie, but if they're going to, then I think Tim Miller's a pretty good choice. I'm looking forward to see how this turns out. If this does pan out and he does end up directing Terminator 6, I'm not like, oh my god, I can't wait, this is the best idea ever. But that being said, if we're going to get another Terminator film, then I think Tim Miller's a pretty cool choice, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he could potentially do with that mythology in that world. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Tim Miller supposedly directing Terminator 6. And there we have it, that wraps up my thoughts on the 5 big pieces of movie news that dropped this past week, the 5 big stories that most piqued my interest and got me most excited. There was some really big pieces of movie news that dropped this past week. I just had to do a video talking about all of them. So what do you think about these stories? Do you have any strong opinions or strong feelings at any one of these topics that I discussed? If so, let me know in the comments down below. And also, if you like this and you want to see me bring back a weekly movie news series, then be sure to comment down below and let me know, and maybe I could bring back a weekly movie news show where each week I talk about the biggest stories that dropped over the course of the past week. I had to do it this week because, like I said, those big stories dropped and I had to talk about them. So there we go. Let me know if you want to see me bring back a weekly movie news series, and that pretty much wraps up this week's installment of my quick movie news roundup. If you like this and you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more, and if you missed my last film review, be sure to click over here to catch up on my last review, or perhaps down here to catch up on another of my recent videos. But with that said, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.